or maybe both?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
If we did the whole thing, it would be 4.8 million, and some of that would be at high risk. But by only delivering 2.8 or indeed 1.4, as one of the motions now calls for, we could sort of pick things from the list that are the least risky things.
Are you willing to tell us what the lower risk things are? No. Okay. Okay.
No, that would, Lance would have to work through that.
Okay.
It's not. We couldn't answer that today.
So in speaking to it, if you would like...
You want some examples?
Yeah.
Yeah, so James sort of said it's a bit of a hybrid between, say there was 4 roles in finance. So we would say it'd be more risky to have all 4 roles go,
Yeah.
and less risky to have 2 roles go.
Right. Okay.
Then there's other positions where, like reducing a policy role would be less risky if council accepts that you just won't be able to have as many policy reviews, which I think some elected members have indicated that previously. So that's a couple of examples.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
It helps just to speak to what I'm trying to achieve here. I asked Lance a question earlier today that between the Future Fit and Councillor Wilson's proposed additional cuts that were, to be fair, became Council's decision in the draft, was there any space in between there? Now, you'll have recalled me saying that. So I was interested to see if, and I've been exploring this with a number of people, if there was some flex in there, if there was some way to bring about some additional savings through staff without, in my opinion, and it's my motion, I guess, without overly damaging the organisation. So the questions were around what was the most important work to do and what was therefore the high risk, Louise. So what would the Chief Executive consider? Was there a portion that he would consider, no way should we do this? And was there a portion that we could do this under some circumstances for a while and it wouldn't be the end of the world? And so that's where we've got with this. So with the $4.8 million that was considered to be medium risk.
2.8 million was considered to be medium risk.
4 point is the high risk. 2
million.
2 million. It was 4.8 altogether. 2 million, 2.8 million. Out of that, and I do believe strongly, and why you haven't seen me itemise it, although your question was a really good and legitimate one, is that I believe it's the Chief Executive's responsibility with his general managers to determine where those risks sit and which services are therefore, which enabling matters are therefore dealt with. So that's where we've come up with, and it is a compromise position that I hope that people can support.
Therefore, you'll obviously give me an opportunity to introduce my amendment. You've had quite some questions for you.
Yeah. Would you like to suggest just give as short like I did? Yeah.
So I think it was 4 minutes. I'll take all of that.
All right.
Look, sorry. No, we're public.
We're in open.
Yeah, no, we're in public.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'm now mindful of your variation to your motion. The amendment simply embraces exactly what the draft LTP said, that we want to achieve a $104 million saving over the LTP. We do, however, take the CEO's $12.8 million list of options, and we clearly identify which areas we do not agree to having cut, and the balance we do, and we then stipulate the CEO needs to find the difference from other cuts that we've articulated. what this achieves is, and so there's no need, there's no disputing, this will mean there will be a level of service reduction across multiple areas. It will mean a reduction in job numbers across multiple areas. There's no secret to that. It's in the document that we've all had access to. So that's my intro. It's a clear attempt to try to right-size the organisation to face our financial crisis.
That's clear, thank you. So, any other questions? Councillor Taylor.
Paula, so can I just clarify, so instead of 10.5 million a year, your motion is 1.4 million, essentially, from that grid?
It's
2.8. It's 1.4 plus the 1.4 of 1.3 of consultancy, so it's 2.7. Is that right, James?
that's right. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Just want clarification of staff. So in regards to point 1 of the Mayor's most recent motion, the PD is correct because unlike our motion, which is included in the 12.8.
Correct. So for your motion, you've already said that you're delivering the enabling in full, and therefore specifying that one separately would have been a double counting. For Mayor Paula's motion, they're saying that they want to deliver the PD saving, and separately they want to deliver an additional 1.4 million of enabling. So I guess that therefore means, going back to your question a moment ago, that their total is actually 1.4 plus 1.3 plus whatever the elected member PD thing is, which is obviously pretty small.
Right. And it's over each year over the 10 years.
Both your amendment and Mayor Paula's motion are to be implemented in year 1, with full savings from year 2 and ongoing, yes.
Right, so 2.7 million per year, yeah. 14 million.
Councillor Wilson, or otherwise?
No.
Deputy Mayor?
Excuse me, thank you. Just a question for clarification of the of the mover. I see there's some services listed that are to be excluded from the reductions that you're seeking, but then it says instruct staff to make further savings of the 1.5 million to make up the 10.5. So I guess that. Yeah, sorry, of the mover of the amendment. Yep. Is that, and then it's listed here to make up the 10.5 million to instructs this. Well, it says instructs staff, but I'm assuming it would be CE by prioritising changes in the following areas, and then there's a list of communication and Māori, customer, blah, 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 infrastructure assets, H3, with an emphasis on finding savings from the senior leadership team and management levels. So is the outcome that you're seeking to reduce the number of SLT and senior management levels with that 1.5?
That may be the exact result. You're right. What we're saying very clearly is we want 10.5 million per year, and what we're then saying, it will come from these areas that you have supported, the Chief Executive, or suggested, and then we've said, excluding those projects that we do not accept, the balance, the Chief Executive of 1.595 has to find those from other job losses in those areas.
So just...
so it's 10.5 million a year.
Yep. So instructs the staff to make further savings of 1.5 to make up the annual 10.5 million, but what you're excluding is a lot more than 1.5 million?
Okay, sorry. If you let me say it this way. If you were to take the 10.5, Deputy Mayor, and then minus each of the things that we say exclude, then you actually get approximately 8.7 million. So then we say then we say, Chief Executive, you've got to find the difference, and then we break down how to do it.
Perhaps I could help, Deputy Mayor, if it'd be helpful. So we provided 12.5 million worth of options,
Yeah.
which means that in theory there's 2 million worth which could be rejected and still deliver the 10.5. As it happens, more than that amount has been rejected, which is where the
Yeah.
1.5 million balance comes in that the Chief Executive now has to deliver according to that amendment.
Okay. What was that? Sorry, Councillor
It's
Wilson?
very, very clear.
Well, I'm allowed to ask questions for
Of course you
clarity
are.
though, so.
Yeah.
Because the maths don't add up, but.
Sorry, the maths do add up. Amy redid the math, and I think Amy got advice on the math. We've done the math, so does the math add up, Amy?
Just stop a minute. It's actually Angela's right to ask questions to make sure she believes that she has the right financial information.
Yes.
So we'll just continue with that. So Angela, have you now got the information that you need to understand the financial proposition?
Possibly, yep. Thank you.
Mayor Paula, again, the last statement from the Deputy Mayor that the math doesn't add up.
So I'm asking her, does she need anything to be certain that it does? And you said possibly. So what do you, yes, hang on.
Yeah,
Let
but,
her finish her question, because you can ask questions when she's finished with
Yeah,
hers.
no, I'm
So-
good for now.
The
Yeah.
question is of me. She's asking me as the mover of the amendment,
She
the
made a
question.
comment, she didn't ask you about the maths, she
Oh,
made a
it-
comment, but I'm asking, hang on, you chair your meeting and I'll chair mine, that would be very happy then. So, Angela, you're still working that out, is there something that we can help with here?
Not right now, thank you.
Hey, Ewan, have you got a question?
Yes, so,
Perfect.
no, I think I've actually answered it. It's just your entire cut that you've put forward now is 14 million over the 10 years versus the original 104 million that we put out as part of the draft LTP. Well, it's,
4.7 a year after year two.
sorry, is it, that was the question I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
Is it from year, what is the total over the LTP, over the,
From whose thing? From
Mayor Paula, Mayor Paula?
I mean, yeah. Well, I haven't done the calculation, but just thinking out loud, from year 3 to year 10 in each of those years, it's about 2.7 million. Sorry, from year 2 to year 10, it's 2.7 million per year.
24.3 million. Thank you. That's all I needed.
Thank you. Okay, is anybody else, we do need to all be clear, so I am trying to get there. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I would like to pick back up on my questioning around the amendment and just wanted to fully understand what is intended, if we can scroll down further, in terms of that additional up 1.5 something million a year. So to the CE, I guess this might put you into a difficult position, so I understand if it's not able to be answered right now, but what kinds of activities would that impact in those particular parts of the business? It's further out.
Yeah, I'd have to go into it and have a look.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like quite an enabling resolution, and naturally I'd confer back with council on that once we've had that closer look. I'm not sure if that was the Councillor Wilson's intention, but that's the way I sort of read it.
The mover of the amendment, that's exactly what we tried to do.
Yeah, okay. So, but at this stage, it's, yeah, okay.
Any questions in terms of understanding the differences between the two, so that we can go to debate and... No? Everybody understands everybody knows what they need to know?
I just had a quick question.
Thank you, Kesh.
Just in terms of, Lance, you mentioned something earlier around senior management favors a quick, no, what did you say? Something about, you know, having changes done in year 1 versus year 2. And so just looking at Mayor Paula's motion, with the reduction of enabling services of 1.4, how would you envisage that happening? Can you talk to that or not really?
It would basically go through a change process, and with the affected staff and with a view to getting all that completed by 1st of July in year 2. So that year 2 comes and you're actually getting the full benefit of savings. So in that first year, you'd go through that change process probably in the next 6 months after July this year. And if there's any redundancies involved, then the vacancy from that position would pay for the redundancy involved. So there's no, you know, it doesn't cost extra money in the first financial year.
And
It's
are you
nearly-
quite confident in that you'll be able to do that in that short period?
For that quantum, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Kesh.
Councillor Van Oosten,
Oh, someone said my name.
is that it? Yeah. Councillor Van Oosten?
Thank you. Just to the CE, built into the base, my understanding is a vacancy factor. How might these additional reductions impact on that assumption?
Well, 1.4 million, remembering 1.4 million, the other 1.3 million is consultancy costs, so that doesn't affect the vacancy factor.
Yep.
The 1.4 million will make it a little bit more challenging for my GMs to meet their vacancy factor if you have X less staff that aren't on the book. So, but like I said, if it was a larger quantum, I'd be quite concerned. But the 1.4 million, I'd be less concerned.
And do either of the amendment or the motion make it any more difficult?
Well, the amendment would make the vacancy factor more difficult because you'd be talking a larger number of staff that disappear and you don't have the salary to have for the vacancy factor, which is, even though it's a 5% figure, it's actually a quantum, you know, a financial quantum within the budget.
Thanks.
Could I just add one more point, going back to Councillor Ketch's question? She asked about the timing, and you framed it as in Mayor Paula's motion. Just to be clear, both the motion and amendment now have the same timing, which is implemented over year 1 to be with full savings from year 2. So that's not a distinction between the two motions.
Councillor Wilson?
Mayor Paul, I think I'm about to need to apologise to the Deputy Mayor because I think the figures, I've just seen the Brain Trust go out and recalculate it, and I have a feeling when Tracy and her colleagues get involved that maybe these are the right numbers. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I just need to change your actual the rounding number. It's $35,000.
Okay, but I have to apologise to the Deputy Mayor because it looks like I got it wrong by how much? 35?
It's more because it's confusing with your motion on year 2 and 3 because they're actually quite different numbers. And what we were doing was year 3, but you have actually changed it to year 2.
Correct.
And they're different amounts.
Which was
from
what
we're taking.
Blair and James and I discussed on the Friday.
Yep, excellent.
So we still don't have the number?
Yep, I'm just going to change that last
So
one.
I'm apologising.
You could be one.
Hey! They get paid more than you do, Angela.
I'm not listening.
Because I do want that, because I want it correct.
Yeah.
actually that I had it in front of me.
Oh, right.
Said, hold on. Who was, with all due, who immediately,
Never.
who immediately
Blames
acknowledged
his
I may have made an error and apologised? Well, went to great lengths to apologise.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Today and give you a break and come back fresh tomorrow. So let us step through. Tracy, you could be the person who tells us exactly what the correct figures are in both recommendations so we know what we are dealing with. Please, yes, please, 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 pretty please.
Sure. Okay, so councillor Ewan's motion. So he's starting with the 10.5 at the top. So obviously remembering that's baked in the budget already. And then he's just gone through and picked out from the different tables what he wants. So he's picked up the totals, but then taken out some of the ones that he doesn't want those levels of services to be cut for, which is where you get the 2.15 and then the 1.9. And those, the ones, so A, B and C, or A to D are the ones that obviously he doesn't want us to cut and out of those tables. What that does is leaves the 1.630 left based on that discussion we've had with Lance then prioritising where he will find that extra cut from. So again, it's still the $10.5 million that we already have baked in the budget. It's just set up in a different kind of a way, and that's how he's requested us to achieve that. The mayor's one, so with hers, she's putting back in that 10.5 savings that we had baked in the budget. However, she's now looking at taking the point, where did it go, Amy? Keep going. 1.4 million. So she's taking $1.4 million of enabling services as a cut across those 10 years. And in both sets of recommendations, you've also got the consultants coming out. So both of them do the consultant side of things. So obviously $10.5 million and earlier as well, the timing of both of those.
Clear as, everybody, right? Everybody happy? Happy to, Louise? Yep.
Just want to make sure that I'm super clear in the amendment. That's taking the entirety of the enabling levels of service.
It's apart from those, the
Enabling, yes.
enabling, yeah.
Yeah. But there's
So see here, that excludes it, so it excludes, you'll see in the two tables.
yeah. No, I'm
So it
actually
takes the whole enabling, but the customer servicing is those ones that aren't been included.
So whole enabling, and then community facing, except those things.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Just wanted to be super clear.
Okay, thank you. So we're going into debate then, unless, right? Yes. We are. I'm the mover of the motion, and then Ewan is the amendment. Of course, the amendment will be put first, but I get to just speak. I'm not going to really labour this too much. Throughout this whole process, we're all looking for the same thing, which is ways of reducing the impact on the ratepayers in a way that doesn't put this organisation on its knees. This, to me, having spoken to a number of people and taken on board some of Councillor Wilson's thinking through the amendment, this strikes a very good balance in my view. It enables us, and I have checked this with the Chief Executive or I wouldn't have proposed it, I oppose slashing staff numbers in this organisation, but I do support getting this organisation in the right size. I heard people talk about getting our organisation to be sleek and trim, and I support that. But I do not support any reductions to levels of services, so I'm really pleased that we've reached that position. In the more medium risk areas of enabling, I think it's right that we charge the Chief Executive to do the work that he's very good at, and that's how his organisation functions best. And so that is why we've come up with the 50% of the medium risk as identified in the staff report. And that's all there is to say on it, really. I guess the public are looking for a slick, well-run organisation, but they also want their service levels to be kept high. Some of the things that Councillor Wilson and Councillor Taylor have listed in the service levels are things that I too know people care about. Litter, amenity, side of road, city safe, landscape. We got feedback from the public well before the LTP that they care about those things. They also care about libraries, front of house services, and a lot of other services that we deliver. So I don't want this to be a really big hit to the organisation, but we've got to be financially prudent, and therefore I'm taking a moderate course of action through this. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor Paul. We went out and consulted with the ratepayer on a draft LTP, and 48% of respondents, written submissions, agreed either strongly or partially to the service level cuts that we suggested. Despite that, we have clearly worked through some areas that we felt the community felt this would not be palatable. So that's why we said we will not close libraries. we will not close partner pools, and we will collect the litter frequency, the amenity cleaning. So we put all of those things back in specifically because we felt that we needed to get that balance right. But let's not sugarcoat coat this. We are saying we want to make $104 million savings over the life of the LTP. This will mean there are some service level cuts. This will mean there are some job losses, and this will mean, in our opinion, that the organisation is better right-sized to manage the financial crisis that we've found ourselves in, some made of our own accord, and others that were outside of our influence. Now, let's be honest. The motion also makes some cuts, but considerably less. Ours at 104 million over the long-term plan. The Mayor's motion just 24 million over the 10 years. I suggest that that doesn't go far enough. It doesn't right the direction of the ship. It's trimming at the edges. It doesn't have the structural change we need. It's as simple as that.
Councillor, was there anybody else for debate, please? Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Just to expand on Councillor Ewan's reference to 48% support, that if you exclude the don't knows and the neutral people, so you take it as a proportion of those people who did actually express a view, it was 60% support versus 40% against. That is 1.5 times, which happens to be a greater margin than any general election in New Zealand's history. I think that's pretty decisive. We went out to that consultation giving the public a clear understanding that there would be service cuts. None of us want service cuts, but we are in difficult times and it is necessary. The public understood it and the public gave us a clear mandate for it. I think we need to go with Councillor Ewan's motion.
The debate. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Look, in our view, the council at present is not a financially sustainable organisation. We accept the value of the future fit work, but it's not going to get us where we need to be fast enough, and nor is the Mayor's motion. Year after year, we don't balance our books. We plan to. It doesn't happen time after time. At some point, you have to acknowledge that. And that's what we're trying to do. Resize the organisation so we can get back on track quickly, pay back debt. CE has acknowledged today the importance of not lingering too long over these changes. I couldn't agree more. I've been through restructuring fatigue. There's nothing worse. If we've got to do it, then let's get on with it. There are a few reductions here, as Ewan has said, which has been put up, which we don't think are appropriate. The rest are either ones that we can live with or changes we do think are actually appropriate. The Mayor herself has said it, so this is not business as usual. And I put it to you that we do have a mandate here. We've heard the figures, 48% up against 33%. And I ask you to think of some of the verbal submissions that we heard. People were genuinely worried. People we'd never seen before came in here. And it occurred to them for the first time that perhaps the city's finances were not in good hands, that they were not being well managed. The questions kept coming back. How did you get us into this mess? What are you going to do about it? They really were worried. And I think we have a responsibility to cut our costs as much as we possibly can. No one said it was going to be fun or easy, and I don't think the Mayor's motion goes far enough. We need to make the hard decisions today, and we do have a mandate from our community to make those hard decisions. And I remind you of our concerns about DC revenue and our lack of debt headroom. We are in uncharted territory in that area. We need to make these cuts.
You, Councillor Thompson?
We're charged with making good governance decisions, and most of the public do not sit here with, I guess, understanding the organisation and its needs as their day job. And so while we have heard from people that they want to see the full service cuts, actually we have to also make a decision on what's best for the organisation to ensure that the council continue to provide quality and good services to the community. My concern with the amendment is that it goes too far and it will cause too much stress to this organisation. We'll lose good people, we'll make more mistakes, it will impact on the quality of our work and services, and it will be damaging to the organisation to undergo another large restructure after already cutting 7.8% of staff. This ends up being a 15% cut to staff, which I think goes too far. I also can't support some of the community service level cuts. We heard from community groups and community houses how valuable our community development team are in terms of the work that they do, working with community houses. There's already been, while some of the amendment claws back some of the levels of service around litter and roadside amenity, there are still a lot of reductions to amenity which the city will look poorer for. We already have low levels of service for things like planting, for picking up litter at our bus shelters, which often look horrendous, for sweeping of intersections, road marking, paint, all of those things. I don't want to see library hours reduce. The library is a core part of the fabric of our city. So I support the balanced approach that the Mayor has put forward. Thank you.
Councillor Pike.
Thank you, Mayor. This has become a spending issue. Historically, we have spent large and artificially relied on our debt limit to close the gap. But now the chickens have come home to roost as we are scarily close to our credit card limits. Further exacerbating this issue is growing inflation, interest rate, population growth and depreciation. But so has our increased spending. As a result, we're now looking at billions of dollars of debt. Unfortunately, this means we are now faced with some extremely difficult decisions. I reflect on our growth as a city over the last 10 years, which show us with a 20.9% population increase, and meanwhile facing 466 increase in consultant spend, 69.7 increase in personnel costs, and a capital program which has ballooned out to 398%. While we acknowledge the work of the CEO's Future Fit program, our growth is clearly not proportionate. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to be able to tinker around the edges, and we simply cannot afford to continue this trajectory. Our consultations showed 48% of submitters encourage us to do these cuts, and only 33% against. No one wants to make these cuts. The easy option is to turn a blind eye and continue to ignore it. But if we do, we're just making it tomorrow's problem, and in doing so, making tougher decisions for the future. It gives me absolute no pleasure to support the amendment. It will mean some extremely hard times and difficult conversations, but that is the reality that we must face in order to reduce our debt by $104 million in this LTB and give us contingency for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Casey Cox.
Yeah, I'll be supporting the Mayor's motion primarily because, as I understand it, we have already gone through a huge process in terms of looking at our efficiencies as an organisation through Future Fit, as Councillor Pike discussed also. And I just think that we can make some more efficiencies as we go forward. We've discussed a lot too, the things that we can do through IT, through putting many of our forms online, that sort of thing, but we need people to be able to do those things. So I just don't think that now is the right time to be cutting back on the people that are going to help us to achieve those efficiencies going forward. And in terms of the community cuts, I think we did go out and consult, but I don't think that we were clear around what the implications of those cuts proposed would be for our community. And I think that we've been given that information, and it would be pretty devastating for our, as Councillor Sarah said, to our community team. And they are the face of our organisation. If you work in the community space, that's who you see all the time, and they're drawing the dots and the connections between community and here, and they're just so important. So a lot of the cuts would have just been, just devastating to our community, I think, and I'm definitely not in support of them. I think that structural change can happen over time, and I think the Mayor has put forward a proposal that enables us to get there over time and not make any drastic, harsh cuts at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McIndoe.
Thanks, Mayor Paula. While there are obviously different views around the table, the one thing we're all clear about is none of us wants to be doing this. None of us wants to be in this position. And can I start by acknowledging you, Lance, and the staff, because I do recognise how difficult this is. And I don't want to be putting you in that difficult position. But I also want to echo the comments that some who have supported Councillor Ewan and Councillor Jeff's motion have made. And in particular, Councillor Jeff's comment that HCC is just not sustainable in this model. And I firmly believe this. By supporting Councillor Ewan's motion, I am honouring the undertaking I gave to the East Ward voters in the by-election earlier this year. And I recognise a lot of people didn't vote, but I did receive a very strong mandate for that particular view, and it came up at every meeting I attended. I met with many distressed ratepayers who said, we're being rated out of our own homes. We are having to take reverse mortgages. Now, this is not just scaremongering. It was a common theme coming through. And when our elderly people are being rated out of their own homes, we have a significant problem that we must address. Unfortunately, over the years, councils have expanded into all sorts of areas that were never the core function of local authorities. And if ever there was a time for us to focus back on our core business, it is now. And so I want to suggest that while none of us likes what we're having to do, we don't have an alternative. We must get our council back under control. I am desperately sorry for those who will pay quite a heavy price for this, but I firmly believe that we must make this tough decision, and we must make it now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Thanks, Mayor Paula, and echoing Councillor Tim's sentiment. Look, reducing the headcount is in my opinion, going to present us with a more sustainable and strategic approach for the following reasons. It directly addresses our current financial challenges, of which we have many, by decreasing operational costs, enabling us to allocate resources more efficiently. Streamlining our workforce will allow us to optimise productivity and focus on retaining top talent. So to flip it around, and having been so negative for so long, it sounds like an opportunity to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll look to be as brief as my colleague across the room. I too want to acknowledge the work that Lance and the leadership team have done in the Future Fit program. It has created savings of more than $7 million this year and into future years, and that can't be underestimated, how difficult that has been and the impact that it has had on you and the rest of your leadership team. So I thank you for that rigour in delivering that. To add further cuts is really difficult and has been really hard for me to agree to the $1.4 million of additional savings that need to be made there, which will in fact also impact on staffing levels, I have no doubt. But there's humane ways to be able to do that, and I think that that's at the heart of what you want to be able to achieve, Lance. And also, to go further than that would impact, I believe, on the vacancy factor and the ability for us to be able to find further savings, which are already baked into our assumptions. So I can't see that that would be a good way to be able to do that. We're an organisation that has been forced to grow, and that it doesn't come easily. And you only need to look at our capital program today and compare it to what it was 6 or 7 years ago to be able to see the huge effort that Hamilton City Council is being asked to achieve. And you cannot do more of that with less staff and less ability to be able to respond to that growth. So I cannot support taking further cuts than what the Mayor's proposal suggests. So I'll be supporting the motion. Kia ora.
Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. I've been reflecting on, I guess, our aspirations and the commitments that we make versus what we actually do. Because our community demands transparency from us. They expect clear, accurate, timely information about the issues that are relevant to them, but that requires resourcing. Our community has expectations around the speed of a response. Delays in communication and a lack of communication leads to frustration and decreased trust. That enables mis and disinformation to fill the spaces we leave. I do not think that targeting comms is an acceptable risk. It undermines our democracy and it undermines our aspirations to have a two-way conversation. We talk a lot about being a young city and how important our young people are. In one of the verbal submissions that Rangatahi Māori submitted talked about their concerns for how our service level cuts would affect graduates and students. Young people who studied and joined the workforce during the COVID-19 pandemic and are now facing further insecurity. It's bloody hard to be a public servant currently, and God knows there's no jobs in central government for them. So I think about our young people in the context of these cuts and their livelihoods. There are 3 strategies in our terms of reference that we're required to ensure our decisions are in alignment with: He Paumanawa Order, the Disability Action Plan, and our climate strategy. The service level cuts directly jeopardises them. There's a reason why these are highlighted in our terms of reference, because they are critical pieces of work, and I challenge cuts that show that we have no governance integrity, that undermines the previous commitments that we've made to our communities when we approved and financed these strategies in the first place. I don't like either of these motions or the amendment, but I will accept the motion as the lesser evil.
Thank you. Look, it wasn't too long ago that I sat in this chamber with many members that are in this chamber today, and we celebrated the fact that the city was embarking on the largest capital program ever in history. And as Councillor Van Osten, Chair of Finance, rightly said, that growth took us from $65 million capital program to a $323 million capital program. Staff didn't force that on us. This chamber, these elected members made that decision. We actively pursued $323 million worth of capital program because we're the fastest growing city in New Zealand. Putting aside the outrageous interest and depreciation costs of $54 million that have been lumped on us, this is Groundhog Day. If you slash and burn this organisation and the people that we need to deliver $323 million of a capital program, this is Groundhog Day. In 2012, times were tough, led by a different mayor. Council slashed and burned, attacked community. Community is really easy. As Councillor Naidu-Rolfe knows as chair, community is easy to cut. It's really easy to cut, so let's do that. And what happened, as soon as the community saw the tangible results of that, they weren't happy. If the amendment goes through, they will see the tangible results and they won't be happy. Look, we asked the CE for savings through Future Fit. I challenge anyone to be a CE of the organisation of this size with this amount of staff and the incredible amount of services that we deliver for 180,000 residents, and do that with grace and good faith and come out of it the other end. To ask to do that again, it's absurd.
Councillor Naidoo-Rowe, well,
Thank you. It's not easy. Having, speaking personally, having a heart for community, but your head in the finances is not the best of times to be split. But I've learned a few things in recent weeks. And that's, you go out with a 19.9% proposed rates increase, people are not going to be happy regardless. You ask people, what do you want? Everyone wants lower rates. You ask them how, they say, cut whatever you need to, but I don't want to pay 19.9% rates increase. And then you go, okay, well, what can we cut to bring your rates increase down without stifling growth and everything else? And what I learned after that was that actually CapEx actually plays quite a large role in determining our rates increase, much more than I initially thought. So what will I be focusing on to deliver a lower rates increase? I'm going to be spending majority of my energy on the CapEx, on our capital program. So right now, I am comfortable with the reduction in the enabling services that were listed. I'm less comfortable with the community-facing stuff because that's where the heart is and that's where I spend my days, and I know the effects that these cuts will have on our community. And in the grand scheme of things, I actually think that as a team, we should actually be focusing on the CapEx, not so much the OpEx right now. So look, I'm going to support Mayor Paula for the purpose of modelling, and I'm happy to revisit this if we need to over the next day or so.
any further debate? I'll go to right of reply. Those of people who know me in my role as mayor know I'm always happy to seek a compromise. But I will always ensure that this council can deliver the services this community needs, and Angela spoke to that, and deserves. Our finances, our financial position today is not largely due to the staff. It is due to inflation and interest and depreciation and insufficient revenue and unfunded mandates and a whole bunch of other things that we've all acknowledged in this journey. Remember also that our public have made it quite clear when service levels drop, they don't like it. They don't like weedy berms and centre roads. They don't like parks and playgrounds that are not looked after. They don't like it even, and I think at this time of the year with the leaves, when your leaves are not swept up sufficiently. So I don't think we can make staff the brunt of this. What they're also asking for, quite clearly, is that we do things in a timely manner to a high standard. They want that. They want faster, speedier consenting, for example. They want the quicker resolution of issues that arise in their community. They don't want to wait 21 days for information. They want it from us. So we must provide high levels of service. My proposal, and I support what Deputy Mayor Angela said about us facing some of the most complex issues that we're ever likely to face. My proposal is a compromise. It reduces rates, it leans up the organisation, but it does so in a way that is not going to bring this organisation down to its knees, and it's not going to have the same brutal impact on the activities that we do. All right, thank you. We'll go to the vote. against the amendment if you're against the amendment.
The amendment is lost, 6 for, 7 against.
We'll go to the substantive motion.
The motion is carried, 7 for, 6 against.
Thank you, everybody. Be free.